drug crisis in its history, as you know. Each year, overdoses kill more Americans than died during the entire Vietnam War. The numbers are up this year. They just came out over 70,000. You'd think everybody manipulating the levers of power in Washington would be concerned/panicked about this. You think Congress would be eager to do something to fix it. But instead, they have a very different agenda, one that works at cross purposes, getting softer on drug dealers. A bipartisan bill making its way through the Senate right now would drastically cut minimum sentences for cocaine and heroin smugglers. Why? Well, Tom Cotton may have an answer. He is a Republican senator from Arkansas, and he joins us tonight. Senator, this seems an odd time to reduce the sentences for drug dealers, and you've got 70,000 Americans dying of drug ODs. What is going on?
It's a very odd time, Tucker. As you say, just last year, 72,000 Americans were killed from drug overdoses, which is a new record. Unfortunately, it beat the record from the previous year. If anything, we should be cracking down on drug dealers. I've got legislation that would increase mandatory minimums for fentanyl, which is a very dangerous synthetic opioid that is made oftentimes in China and smuggled through Mexico. It would also overturn a Supreme Court decision from just 3 years ago that let many violent felons back onto the streets, armed career criminals. Yet instead, we're moving forward with legislation that may drastically cut mandatory minimums and give liberal judges more discretion to deviate even further from those mandatory minimums. It's very disappointing. We shouldn't be focused on reducing sentences. We should be focused on prison reform if you want to focus on criminal justice at all. You know, everyone in prison is there for a reason. There's a good chance they're going to commit future crimes if they don't get, say, a skill or education or get drug treatment. That's fine. But prison reform is very different from sentencing reductions.
If you were going to reduce sentences for criminals, you'd think maybe you'd focus on marijuana users in jail or low-level drug users. Why would you reduce the sentences for large-volume drug traffickers in the middle of the worst drug epidemic in our history? It doesn't make sense. Who's pushing this?
Yeah, so Tucker, the reason why you have to focus on large-scale drug traffickers in the federal prison system is that's really all that's in the federal prison system. Virtually no one goes to federal prison as a low-level, nonviolent offender, just a few hundred people at most. But in those cases, they usually pleaded down from a more serious offense. Now, I can't speak to what every state does in terms of its drug sentencing. Even at the state level, it's pretty rare, though. But at the federal level, if you are in federal prison, you are a repeat offender or you are a serious offender, trafficking in huge quantities of drugs. Yet if you're in the Congress, that's the only system you control. And if you're ideologically committed to having lower drug sentences, that means lower sentences at the federal level for serious traffickers.
Very quickly, Senator, are you worried our crime rate's going to go up?
I am worried, Tucker, that the crime rate is going up. Mandatory minimum sentences and three strikes laws and taking discretion away from liberal judges over the last 30 years has led to a remarkable decline in crime in this country. However, we started to see some increases in crime in the last 2 years of the Obama administration, and it just stands to reason when most prisoners, when released from prison, commit future crimes, that if we let more prisoners out or shorten their sentences, you're going to see an increase in crime in this country.
Yeah, it's not complicated. Senator, thank you, but apparently your colleagues need convincing, so thank you for your work on that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tucker.